kitchen, folks. Today I'm going to make that blackberry and apple jam. Let's have a look at those blackberries. Here they are, they've been soaking overnight, so hopefully all the bugs are now out of them. Although I can't actually see any floating on top, I must admit. And here's the apple. So this is 2 kilos of apples which have been pulped and strained. That's the juice which I'm making some cordial with in a separate film. But this apple and those blackberries and that sugar are what are going to make my jam. So I've got a colander balance over this pan, using 2 wooden spoons just to hold it in place because the colander wasn't big enough to fit in the pan. And I'm going to strain the blackberries through that. So that's the initial water poured off. Now get the blackberries in. Okay, then I'm going to put these back into the wok. Now they've been drained of water. Okay, so the drained blackberries are back in the wok. I'm going to add some fresh water. I've got 400 ml in this jug. And I just want a bit in the bottom, that's enough. Because what I want to do now is steam these in the pan. So it's simply a case of lid on, gas on and heat on. And I'm going to turn that down because I don't want them to burn. And I've now got to leave this until these are steaming and simmering. And when that happens, the flesh of the blackberries will just break down really easily. So once that's happening, I'll get back to you. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, 40 minutes later. Yeah, I think we can say that they are now in a good position to be well mushed. And the eagle-eyed amongst you might have noticed about 20 blackcurrants. There's one there on the spoon, which I just found in the freezer, so I've thrown them in as well. It won't affect the flavour. Right, I'm going to turn that off and leave it to cool for about half an hour. Okay, so the situation now is that I've got the blackberries here, I've got my sieve there and my pan there. I want to strain the blackberries in the sieve, mush them out, get all the goodness out of them, keep the pips in the sieve, which I want to get rid of, and keep going. Okay, so in, and in, and in. And then it's time for the elbow grease. And I'm just using a wooden spoon to push the blackberry through the sieve. And what the sieve will do is it will capture any bits of stalks, anything which isn't the nice blackberry flesh and juice, the pips, etc. will all be caught in here. And that'll just go to compost. And all that really good stuff that goes through the sieve, that's going to go into my jam. I like smooth jam, I don't like jam with seeds in. Never have done. I'll come back to you in a sec. Okay, so that's my first sieve done. So that's all the good stuff down there in the pan. And this is the stuff that will go to compost. I've got quite a long way to go. So I'll be back in about half an hour. See you then. So there is the net result of a lot of elbow grease. That's the good stuff for the jam. And that is the rubbish for compost. Right, I'm going to pour all that lovely blackberry puree back into the wok. So there it is in the wok, and now it's time to add the apple puree. This is quite heavy actually. In fact, I'm curious to see how much it does weigh. So the weight of the apple puree is 981 grams in the muslin cloth. So that's probably 960 grams, I would say. I want to try and get this in without making a big mess, if that's possible. Okay, so there's my apple puree in with the blackberry mush. I'm just going to try and combine these together. Gently does it, because I don't want this to slop everywhere. As you can probably understand, it does make a mess. Right, this is now combined into a nice constituency, but I haven't even added the sugar yet, and this wok is nearly full. So I think what I'm going to do is split it across 2 woks. Otherwise, it's just going to go everywhere. So roughly this is split now on a 2/3 and a 1/3 basis. So I'm going to put 1 kilo of sugar in this one and 500 grams of sugar in that one to begin with, and then I'll see what it tastes like. So I've got 1 kilo of sugar here. And I'm just going to combine this sugar. And I'm going to stir 500 grams of sugar into this one. Now, just to explain to you, I think initially I'd said at the beginning of the film that I was going to put 2 kilos of sugar in this jam. I've reverted it to 1.5 kilos, and the reason I've done that is that when I tasted the apple puree when I was making the cordial, it was a lot sweeter than I anticipated. So I've put less sugar in for now because I don't want to make a jam which is too sweet. But with that said, if it tastes a bit tart, I will add some more. Okay, so that's mixed together nicely as well. I think it's time to get some heat on. Ooh, yummy. So spatter guards on the pan. Let's get the gas on. Right, I need these to come to a simmer now. It's going to take a while. I'll come back to you in a bit, okay? Okay, half an hour later. We're at simmering point. So what I need to do now is to keep stirring it and moving it round so it doesn't burn on the bottom. And I want the water that's in there to evaporate out as steam and this to start to solidify. The sugar should help it caramelise. And I'll end up with something which is a little bit stiff and jam consistency. So it is literally a case of just playing the waiting game now. I don't want it to burn though, so I am going to keep coming back to it and stirring it. I'll update you again shortly. 10 minutes later, I'm not satisfied that it's going to set enough, so I'm going to add a little bit more sugar. This is unmeasured. I'm just sort of doing it by eye. And I want to stir that in and let it dissolve. Yeah, it was just feeling a bit too runny for this stage in the simmer, and I didn't think that was right. Generally speaking, the guidance is the same amount of sugar as fruit, and I had put less sugar in. So I think I just need to go by what I usually do in future. It smells absolutely brilliant though. "20 minutes later, and this is more like the constituency I was after. I can tell by how thick the liquid feels as I'm stirring it, and I can see with how it's beginning to stick around the edges like that, I'm not far off. Okay, further 10 minutes in, it's now time to test. So what I do is I dip my spoon, I'll give it a stir quickly first. Dip my spoon in, cold plate. And what I want to do is leave this to go cool, and if when it's gone cool it's formed a skin which when I touch it, I don't penetrate it as I touch it, and then if I lift the plate up it doesn't run down the plate once the skin's formed, then I know the jam is ready. Okay. If the whole thing slides down the plate, that's fine. It's not actually running, so that's one aspect of the test which is fine. Let's touch the top. There's a distinct skin. I only got a tiny bit on my finger there, and seeing as though this has carried on simmering since, I'm confident that this is now done. So I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so the jam is now off and cooling. I've got my jars here in this big pan, just sanitising. But I better have a quick sample, hadn't I? Oh, absolutely gorgeous. And you know what? You'll not buy jam in the shop that tastes as good as this. It's absolutely beautiful. Honestly, get out there, pick some blackberries, get some apples, make it for yourself. It's so much better than the shop bought stuff. Okay, I've let this cool a little bit. You can see it's formed a really thick skin on top. I want to get it in the jars now with the help of this jam ladle, which is good for most of the jars, but not the smaller ones, unfortunately. And I just called it a ladle, and of course it's not a ladle, it's a jam funnel. Or a jarring funnel. I'll come back to you when it's done. Oh, I've got a right dab on, I'll tell you, but I'm just about there. So, pans empty, jars full, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, not bad for a morning's work. Dishwasher on overdrive. I'm going to sort the labels out, then I'm having a shower. Right, I've got this fancy new Bluetooth label maker, so I've done my label template on here. Simply say print label and ask for 11 copies. Here we go. Isn't that fancy? And yeah, the top left fruit is actually grapes, but it was the closest I could find to blackberries on the template. Will not worry. Isn't that good? So I just get my jars labelled. Looks alright, doesn't it? And there they are, all nicely labelled. Right, I need to take a shower. Hope you've enjoyed the film, folks. Get making some jam. We jamming. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is Stu Moss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.